Well, greetings and salutations, children of the Eldar. It is good to have you here for our Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power After Show. I am going to be your host here today. My name is John Campea. Good to see you guys here as we gather around to talk about the newest episode, episode 5 of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Now, in case you're not really clear on this, we are going to be talking about last night's episode in a full open spoilery format. So if you have not seen the new episode or you don't want to be spoiled about the new episode, you might just want to add this video to your favorites list and then come on back a little bit later. But we are here to talk about all things about that episode last night, a 70-plus minute episode. I hope Disney Plus starts taking notes. Anyway, sitting beside me, joining me today, Robert Meyer-Burnett. Robert, how you doing?
I'm good, John, and I have to say I quite enjoyed this episode.
Well, we'll get into that in just a second. Sitting right beside him, I love her hair today. Kris Carr is
John,
here. Kris,
I'm
how you
worried
doing?
about it. It's growing. It keeps getting bigger. And I brought my Lord of the Rings encyclopedia
That
with
is a
me.
gorgeous tome,
Isn't
by the
beautiful?
way. That is
Friend
a
of the show,
beautiful
Keegan
book.
got this for me. It's real
What?
nice.
Who got it for you?
Keegan, who came to the Batman screening.
I thought you said Michael Keaton got it for
No.
you. That would have
Oh,
made it a
man.
really special.
They're both equally cool.
That's true.
Yeah.
Both equally cool. And guys, it's good to have you here today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our thoughts on last night's episode of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, episode 5. And we're going to do that for a little bit. And then we are throwing it open to you. If you guys have thoughts, opinions, theories, ideas, speculation, questions, whatever, go ahead and throw those into the super chats. We're going to keep those open for a little bit. And then we will get to those after we're done our musings on it. All right. With that down, let me get started here. It took 5 episodes, over a month, and I finally had an episode of Rings of Power that I like as much as House of the Dragon. My most anticipated show of the year that I nearly tapped out on, that I nearly gave up on early on. It's been getting a little bit better for me, a little bit better. Last week I said, okay, this is finally starting to look like the show I wanted it to be. This week, it was finally, took 5 weeks, but finally, it was the show I wanted it to be. It was finally a show that I could legitimately say to myself, I liked this as much as the last episode of House of Dragon that I want. Because I haven't been able to say that up till now. Have not been able to say that up till now. And part of the reason is because the shift in pacing happened. We started to actually get some tangible things happening in the show that, granted, some of the groundwork was laid. First of all, let me start with this. The opening scene with Nori and, I keep on wanting to call her Pepper, but it's not Pepper. Poppy. The song Poppy sings as they start their migration and the phasing in and out of the map as they travel and they go through some recognizable landscape for those of us who like Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. It was simply, I think I put this up on our community tab last night. It was the most Tolkien scene I think I've ever seen in a Lord of the Rings thing. Not the best scene we've ever seen in a Lord of the Rings thing, but like the most Tolkien thing. And the song was beautiful and it moved my heart and I absolutely loved it. We got movement on, the King of the Southlands. We got movement on, I always want to call him, what's the name of the elf again? Adnar? Adar. Not Anon, who just got released from prison, whoever that was. Yes, no, Adar, we're going back to his stuff, and now he's mobilizing his orcs, all that kind of stuff. We see the frailty of humans, of men, as they do. Half of them want to come and bend the knee to him, and a blood sacrifice has to be made. I'm like, what? And then we get Galadriel, who, a couple of key things with Galadriel here. Number one, I think the training scene was great. Now, I've heard some people saying, the training scene was nice, but it was kind of wasted screen time. We could have just seen that they got better. To me, the point of that training scene was not letting us see how the armies of Numenor figure out how to kill orcs. You got to remember, the people of Numenor have a natural angst against elves. And I think we needed to see a scene that was going to justify later when the men of Numenor in battle respect and follow Galadriel. And to me, that's what that whole scene was about. That whole scene was about her winning them over and them learning to respect her. And then her even given an inch when they did get cut a couple of the threads on her things. He goes, well done, Lieutenant. And everybody's happy and all that kind of stuff. Love that scene. Most importantly, though, to me, the most important scene was finally that scene between Galadriel and Halbrand. Mm-hmm. When she basically verbalizes what we've seen up to this point. She has been a mess. And that's one of the things that I love about this character is that she is a completely flawed, damaged mess. And when she's talking to him and she has that moment of realization, they look at me as the evil that I fight against. My own men mutinied against me. But it wasn't a boo-hoo, woe is me, everybody's against me. It was like, and they were right. They're all right. And she's starting to come into her own self-realization about herself and learning that the way she does things is not the way to get things done. And so we saw, I think, the biggest leap forward in her character development in the whole thing up until that point. The whole thing about, Theo revealing the sword and then going to that thing of Morgoth and Sauron, the sword piece there, and figuring out that it's some kind of a key. I think that's going to come into big play in the battle next week.
Oh, yeah.
How or why or what, don't know. And then it ends with the ships of Numenor sailing off and heading towards it. Now, of course, we know the Southlands eventually become Mordor. So I got a feeling this battle ain't going to go great. I think the victory for them is just going to be getting the human survivors out. But I mean, I loved this. And then that moment when the stranger, and she's teaching him language, and she's talking to him, because the journey is fraught with peril, danger. I'm peril. And I'm like, oh my heart broke for him all at once, all while also thinking that's a little bit of a foreshadowing as well. The wolves attack and he pulls a frickin', Black Adam, smash to the ground the things before, and then all of a sudden, the villagers are like, yeah, this guy's cool. Listen, if I sound overly excited, you got to understand I was this close to tapping out on the show. And this has been my most anticipated show, and I've been patiently waiting for it to get to this level. And for me, this episode, while too late, I mean, it should have been firing on these types of cylinders by episode 2. But we're talking about this one episode, and I will give this one episode its due. I loved it. And then the preview for next week, where it's starting to look a little bit more like a Helm's Deep or whatever situation, that was very, very exciting. I'm starting to get new theories about who the stranger is. Anyway, I loved the episode. I had such a good time with it. I think maybe because I've been long suffering with it. But anyway, Rob, you had a chance to watch the episode yesterday. What was your takeaway from it?
Well, like you, I mean, I liked it. I felt like, this is the show that I wanted to see. And
took them long enough.
They did. I mean, we're 5 hours into this show. And it was funny because I was watching.
5+ hours into it.
Yeah, 5+. And I was watching this, and I was joking this morning on the show. I'm like, so we finally got to Helm's Deep, and the Rohirrim in their boats have taken off to the Southlands to rescue the people. And I do like all that. I like all of the, we now have sort of this, you've got Isildur's father and him trying to maintain a relationship, work everything out.
I can't remember, what's his father's name again? I keep forgetting his father's name. But I am loving that character.
Elliot?
I love that character.
Yeah, something, I really like him. And I like the fact that he's not giving his son anything for free. You got to work for it, buddy. And I really liked all of that. I really liked what was going on with Halbrand. I mean, how Halbrand threw aside what Galadriel gives him. The emblem, and then he comes back and grabs it, and then you see him on horseback in his fashion, ready to go. I mean, I did like all of everything that was going on. I mean, look, I have completely removed myself from the Tolkien lore. And this is an adaptation, and they're compressing all of this stuff. I get it. Because they have to. What are you going to do? Wait 70 years for the Rings of Power to be forged? I mean, who's going to do that? But the character interplay, and I think a lot of it, you had the Harfeets dealing with the stranger, but for the most part, I like the fact that we're really in Numenor, and kind of like in House of the Dragon, how you're kind of in one place, and then we're over the Southlands, and I liked all that. I felt it was very focused. I liked how it was jumping between the places, and it was all we see two sides of what's going on, that the orcs are marching, the Numenor's deciding, are we going to rescue them? Are we not? And then you've got our human characters who are going to they're going to suffer, half left, half are going to stay and fight, even though they know they're going to die. I felt like I was finally watching a Lord of the Rings show, a fantasy show. I understood where everybody was coming from. I liked all of their motivations. And I got to tell you, I have not liked Galadriel. I liked her in this episode. I'm like, here's a character I can finally get behind and like. Somebody who
I have liked that she's been unlikable. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I understand, but you can be unlikable. But I think that what I liked is her self-awareness and the way she interacted with people. And I did like taking the position of somebody who's a teacher and is going to train. I liked all that. It just finally kicked in. I mean, the show has seemed so not what it's supposed to be, and now it was like everything had clicked into place. They moved everything away, and I have to say, John, I enjoyed this from beginning to end. I mean, I was very much when I turned on the show, I was like, and within, like you said, within like 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm in. It felt the way it was supposed to feel for me.
And by the way, let me throw this to you guys, because I have a feeling there's a little bit of a Witcher mechanic going on, because there is no way that the orcs are marching on the tower and the soldiers in Numenor are just setting sail now.
Right.
That they're going to be there in time. So my thought right now is there's a little bit of Witcher going on where, we've been cutting back and forth between these two stories, but they're not actually all happening at the same time.
I've been wondering
so
about that.
By the time the orcs are starting to march on the tower, I have a feeling those ships set sail 8 days ago.
Yeah.
And we're going to come to a part. And I forgot my favorite part. My favorite part of the episode. I can't believe I forgot it. And of course it revolves around Elrond and Durin.
Yes.
But when they start asking Durin all these questions, he goes, no, let me ask you something. Where did you get this table? And he starts giving this story about how it's sacred. We use it for our burials and whatever. And the king is like, we meant no sacrilege and take the table. And then Elrond's like, you fucking made that up, didn't you? Maybe.
Decent wants a new table.
And we see the elves carrying the table, and there's like, it's not that
Decent
heavy.
needs a table.
Oh, yeah,
Great.
you got to tell Decent it's from me.
You're pushing your luck now, Elf. It's so good.
I could watch an entire show just of the two of them, of just Elrond and Durin the whole way through. Anyway, sorry, Chris. Yeah, your general impressions of the episode.
Oh, these two are perfect. I love them so much. That whole exchange too, because one of my favorite things in this episode is Elrond's just absolute, unwillingness to break his oath that he's made to Durin, to this oath he made with one of his best friends, probably his best friend, and wanting to make sure that he stays true to his word, because that is what is most important in this world. And then finding out that he's been manipulated this whole time by the other elves to really come here to get the mithril, not for forging relationships or anything. And then he goes to Durin and has this whole conversation with him, and is open and honest, but says he won't do anything without his friend's permission. And then Durin just getting to be all cheeky of, who has to save all the elves?
Whose hands?
Whose hands?
Yeah. Say it again. Whose hands?
Say it again.
I love
All right, let's go. It's so wonderful. Elendil is the dad's name too, by the way, Isildur's dad.
Right.
All the stuff with Isildur was really interesting too, of just really trying to get to be a part of this mission and everything, trying to earn his right on there, and then, getting to be the cleanup boy basically for the boat. I really love everything with the Harfoots. I love them so much. I want to protect them at all costs. It was really cool to see the stranger use more powers. And I like the theory. I would love to get into this with you. The theories that are popping up with the stranger. Because I really think today's episode, or last night, excuse me, really, for me, confirmed it's Gandalf because of the usage of Strider's riddle.
Right.
Right.
And a theory that I kind of have right now, I'm not saying I'm buying into the theory. I've heard others say it, and I'm kind of ascribed to it, is that the stranger may be Eärendil, Elrond's father.
Which would be cool.
Because if you think about this, Elrond, remember, the fable of Eärendil is that he went to seek out the Valinor. He ascended and was like guiding stars. And how did the stranger show up? Like a falling star, right? And Elrond has been talking a lot about his father for a character who's not on the show. They've gone back to stories and talking about his father 3 separate times, which makes me think that might come into play. Now, if I had to put money on it, do I think the stranger is Elrond's father? I wouldn't put money on it. It's probably going to end up being Gandalf. But I mean, I thought that was an interesting theory, and one I'm kind of leaning to a bit. And actually, when they do a wide shot of Numenor, there's a shot where you see a giant statue of Eärendil, well, like with his hands like this. You see the star in the forehead with the star in the background. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's some foreshadowing, maybe it's just pretty art, and I'm looking too much into it, which happens a lot.
It could be really cool if they went that route, though. It'd be really interesting. It's just then, is that something where you do double down on changing the lore of, okay, well, now his father has become one of the Valar and is kind of in this blue wizard realm of sorts, or is it a whole new thing? And are you changing kind of people's mythology within this world, which I think is fine to do. I don't need to see this to be word for word, you know?
And by the way, we haven't talked yet about, would the real Slim Shady please stand up? Eminem shows up at the end, right? The three wrapped in white, it looks kind of like, there he is, showed up at the end with the suit. No, but these three almost like monk-looking characters in their robes, and they're carrying symbols. I think one of the symbols looked like the symbol that the stranger was drawing out. I mean, I might be reading into that, but that's what it kind of felt like. So, and
It's
then
Mulder and Scully at the UFO crash site.
yeah, yes. And here's the thing: everybody's thinking they're these bad, evil. I think because they gave that one shot that was in the trailer where he's like looking down and then looks out like this. He's got his piercing blue eyes and very evil look. I think that I'm suspecting that's a misdirect. I'm suspecting that maybe they're actually good people, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that for sure. But that's a whole nother level to the mystery.
Yeah.
So somebody was clearly expecting this dude to fall down. So that's interesting too. It's, yeah, I'm very, very, very happy to see it coming to this. Now, can it finish strong? Maybe. We'll see. I certainly have liked the momentum it's been building. I still think it's unacceptable when you look at a show like, and again, you may say it's unfair to compare it, but they are airing at the same time. When you look at the fact that House of the Dragon was able to come out, boom, episode 1, bang, and they're rich into their story and they're quick with their pace and whatever. And they didn't have any big battles or anything like that. Just boom, 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 boom. It's frustrating that this show has taken this long to get to an episode that I finally think is maybe on par with House of the Dragon, but can they finish it out? I don't know. Like, we'll have to see. Anyway, guys, what we really need to find out now is what you guys thought about the episode, the thoughts, ideas, things that stood out to you, questions you may have. It's time for us to get to those. You can fire those into the super chats and we'll address those after we come back from a word from our sponsor. And we're going to thank our friends over at MasterClass for sponsoring this episode of our show. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. You guys know we have been sponsored by MasterClass, and we love them here at the John Campea Show for giving us in-depth information on a wide variety of topics from the world's best experts. With MasterClass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn the art of filmmaking from James Cameron, improve your cooking skills from Gordon Ramsay, or learn how to make compelling YouTube videos from Marquise Brownlee. With over 150 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. I was recently watching through the independent filmmaking course by Spike Lee, and I found it fascinating that not only did he cover the broader topics like working with actors, but he also gets into finer details like working with a cinematographer and how to properly audition a DP for your project. It was fascinating. So guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass for sponsoring this video. All right, guys, with that down, let's now move over and hear from you and your thoughts about episode 5 of Rings of Power. So, Kris, what do we got?
There we go. First from Sam Fisher. The story about the creation of Mithril was awesome.
Oh, yes.
And I kind of don't like Gilgalad now. Durin and Elrond were great as always, especially Durin.
Well, I can't believe none of us brought that up. That mythology they set up about that the tree had one of the Silmarils still in it, and lightning struck the tree, and like that created Mithril. Like when you get into the Lord of the Rings, they only ever talk about it about it's a real special metal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I've often thought it's like, why didn't they build everything out of that? Like if the Dwarves made everything out of Mithril, like couldn't they have? Whatever. But that whole story was beautiful. It was biblical in many ways. Seeing the elf and the Balrog battling and that Balrog fall down and trapped into the pits of Khazad-dûn or whatever.
The stylization of that too was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was really neat.
Oh, I
It was
loved that.
absolutely beautiful. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little bit the opposite of you. I feel like this episode gave me a little bit of a better understanding of the Elf King. And when I still don't approve of his approach to it.
Yeah.
But I get what he's doing now. Like his goal here is to save his people. That's ultimately what he's trying to do.
And he knows a lot more than he's let on.
But
Yes,
he's
and I
being
think he still knows
shady.
more.
He's being a shady mother effer. And
Well-
Elrond's a good boy who shouldn't be lied to.
But I think he's also trying to protect. He's got to see what's what.
Yeah.
That's
You
fair.
know, he's in a position where he's got to suss everything out. And I get it. Because he's like, Elrond seems he's so pure of heart. And maybe he doesn't know what he's getting into.
That's fair. This is, if Elrond was king right now, he would be the Viserys. He'd be the,
Yes.
listen, guys, everything's fine.
It's actually kind of neat when you look at Elrond and Galadriel, right? When we look at Galadriel, we've been talking about this. We see a character that's in the place she's in right now, and then we see where she's in Lord of the Rings. She has a lot of softening to do. Whereas Elrond, we're seeing like the absolute opposite. We're seeing this idealistic, whatever dude, and then we see the Elrond in the Lord of the Rings. So he's going to have to go through some shit, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's going to get
have some
so
hardening to come.
disappointed by humans.
Yeah,
Oh.
so I'm looking forward to that. All right, what's next?
From Daniel Bacura, Harfoot's 2 episodes ago, "We will wait for you," and "No one left behind," proceeds to leave people behind in the back. They did catch up, though, in this episode after being far behind. The opening of the episode was great. Oh, all the map traveling.
The map traveling was great, and that they do eventually catch up. But I mean, yeah, they this is a great thing because this is the same as all of us as people. We talk about how people are there for each other, but we're really not. And like they'll talk about no one left behind, but they talked in earlier episodes about why sometimes they get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of the journey and a part of the travel and just natural selection, if you will, in the ways of being the Harfoot. But God, I love their whole section of it.
Oh, it's
I really
great.
did.
Well, and it was really nice to see, too, the other Harfoots come on board with the stranger now of, oh, he's dangerous, he's going to harm us. And, well, you know, he did protect us from some wolves, so
Yep.
give him some snacks.
He saved us, so that's good. And I love that we got a better idea of their society now, too. It's like,
Yes.
at this time, we migrate to here. Then at this season, we migrate to here, and this is what we do. And so finally, I got a sense of like, okay, now I understand their societal culture, their societal structure, and how they work. So I like that a lot. All right, what's next?
From Sam Fisher, "I really liked the walking song in this episode, especially the version they used in the credits and trailer. So pretty."
Oh, I mean, I just like you were saying, Rob. I've been coming into every episode of thinking like maybe not, but a little bit of, show me you're heading in the right direction, please.
Yeah.
Like show me something. And starting with that scene to me was it was heartwarming. It felt whimsical. It felt Tolkien. Like it just, I love that opening. It like you, it kind of immediately won me over for the episode.
Yeah, I mean, and look, what I wanted to see from this show is you all have all these disparate elements, and then you have the world of men, which messes everybody up anyway.
Yeah.
And you want to see all these factions. How are these people that are all distrustful of one another and have this long history? In a way, I kind of thought this episode went a little too far, and everyone's cooperating, and it's all kumbaya right now. I mean, hopefully next week they'll take some of that apart.
I was gonna say.
But which it will, because I mean, we've already seen the men. Let's talk about the fact that didn't work out so well when half our little encampment of men in the Southland.
Yep.
Yeah, we're here to pledge our fealty to you. And Sauron, really, come over here.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to see more of that, because that fracturing of Middle Earth, those machinations, how do you put together an alliance? And that's what it leads up to. You have to have Middle Earth, an alliance of men and elves, dwarves, and everybody, Harfeets, I guess. They're going to fight Farfoot against Sauron. And how do you put this all together?
But remember, the dwarves don't fight against Sauron.
I know.
Yeah.
And here's, can I throw a
building
theory out
arms.
here? Let me throw a theory out here. Durin. This is a different Durin than we have in like Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? What if Isildur is not the Isildur that cuts the hand off the thing of Sauron? What if the Isildur that cuts the ring off the hand of Sauron is this Isildur's great-great-great-grandson? Because remember, as of right now, the rings of power haven't even been forged.
No.
So, don't get me wrong. Campea isn't saying that the battle against Sauron with the last alliance of elves and men doesn't happen for another 200 years. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying we understand, like even in House of the Dragon, there have been many Aegons, right? There have been many Durins. What if this isn't necessarily the Isildur? What if I don't know.
And this is why you should introduce yourself as, Christine Marie, first of my name. That way no one gets confused.
Absolutely. Our
Come
society
on.
needs to get more into that.
Gosh, guys.
All right, what's next?
From Tim Platt. This episode was awesome. Finally, something that had me interested from beginning to end. I even liked the Harfoot storyline.
I can't emphasize this enough. It's about damn time. I mean, this is the level this show should have been at from the beginning. Now, if it can hold this for the next few episodes, then at the end of it, I'm gonna go, I was very satisfied with this season of show. But we've had other shows. Like Rob, we in Moon Knight, we hit a point where I'm like, okay, we're kind of in the middle right now. Let's see if they can finish strong, and it finishes disappointing. I was with that with Hawkeye too. It's like they had a couple of bad episodes, a couple of good ones. I'm like, okay, these last couple episodes will determine if I'm pro. And so I don't know where they're going to go from here, but I hope it's good.
I think one of the things that this episode did is now there's enough pieces, and we now understand the thrust of the narrative.
Yeah.
Before, the narrative was going all over the place. Like, where is this going? You're going off this direction and that direction. Why are we following these people? I don't know. But now the table has been set, and we know where everyone is and what's happening. And I think they can carry these out. They've only got 3 more episodes, and they have enough that's moving now to make sure that we've got, I think, 3 episodes of really strong content.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right, what's next?
From Sam Fisher, I like that this episode was able to cover every storyline and nothing was dropped like in episodes 3 and 4.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
So we looked at, I mean, look, I don't expect, like House of the Dragon doesn't do it either. I don't expect every episode to spend time on every single one of the storylines going on. If they can, great. But you're right. In this one, we had the Harfoots covered. We had the story of Isildur covered, Galadriel, Elrond, Durin. You're right. This
Even
episode
had
covered
Isildur's sister in there, who I still don't understand the point of, but hey, she's cute.
I am also wondering what's the deal with the sister? I don't know. What's the point of
I'm
her?
not understanding why she's getting chunks of the story right now. I'm sure they'll let me know soon, but right now I don't see
Heel
the point
turn,
of her.
maybe?
Maybe. Could be. All right. What's next?
From Tyler Pfeiffer, Bronwyn sure did change her mind quickly. Felt rushed. I love Adar. In the lore, Sauron didn't allow people to say his name. Why Adar got pissed.
I think if you look at, I've never pronounced her name, Bronwyn, she didn't change her mind quickly. Her whole premise has always been saving her people. The whole reason she got everybody out of town was to save her people. And when faced with a quote unquote reality that they're just going to march in here and kill us all, then she's doing what she has always done. Try to figure out something that's going to save my people. I mean, that's been it. So really, she didn't change her mind on anything. It's just that new information gets presented to her, and her best course of action takes a shift because at the end of the day, her goal is always the same. And that's why I like that scene when then, Elf Boy comes running after her and, tries to give her, get her back on a certain path. But I really didn't think it was any kind of a flip-flop on her part. I don't know. How did you guys feel about that?
I loved it because she also had that killer line of, maybe this is why we are always one to succumb to darkness.
Yeah.
This is why man moves this way, basically, because it was in the self-interest of survival, and they don't have all of the abilities and lifespans and everything else of all these other, races throughout Middle Earth. So it was a really, really great moment, I thought, of, no, I'm going to protect what's mine. And I also love that it's set up, too, how, the hearts of man can be swayed so easily, and all this other stuff, and having the betrayal of half of their group go run to the orcs and to Adar. Am I saying that right? It all made sense to me. Mm-hmm.
All right. What's next?
From Sam Fisher, I think I liked last week's episode better, but this one was great.
I preferred this week's. Now, but again, last week, like my big commentary coming out of last week's episode is like, the show is finally starting to look like the show I wanted it to be. For me, this week was the manifestation of it. It's like last week was like a cocoon. It was a transition, and then it sprouted its wings in the beautiful butterfly of the Lord of the Rings show. It should have been from the beginning. But but yes, to me, the last 2 episodes are winner episodes. I think they're both winning episodes, but for me, this one's a little bit better. Pardon me. All right, what's next?
From Bert, yes,
I literally hiccuped and burped and coughed at the same time. That was a very weird sequence of events. All right.
From Bert, yeah, Slim Shady Light finally made their appearance. Woot woot.
What do they call them? Bring that up again.
Slim Shady Light.
Finally made their. Yeah, This is literally these three people. And do we have an image of the three that showed up? I don't know if we'd have them or not, but we have a parody picture of them. We don't have the actual picture. This is the one set of characters, because like we see Adar, we've had all these theories about him. We see the Stranger, we have all these theories. Halbrand, there we go. We have all these theories about him. We see these three. I don't have a lick of a theory. Now, maybe there are some people who are better Tolkien historians than I, and they have an idea, but literally, I don't have a single lick of a theory on this. Kris, do you? Does that brown leather tome you have there?
I need to comb through some stuff. Because, yeah, they showed up, and at first I went, okay, punk rock elves, cool. They shaved their heads, rad. I love that for them. I don't know who they're supposed to be, though.
I'm not even sure they're elves.
No, I don't know if they are.
I didn't think the ears were elven ears.
No, but when I first saw, the very fair skin and the bright blue eyes, I went, oh, okay, maybe
very
those are elves.
elf-ish.
And then, once we see the hood come down, went, oh, I'm not sure.
Jonathan, you got a theory?
When the trailers first dropped, a lot of people thought that was Sauron because he's supposed to be a very fair-looking person.
Ooh.
Yep. So a lot of people thought that. I don't think that's who's going to end up being. Though why the one girl's carrying that big dinner plate, it looks like a lazy Susan for an afternoon lunch, but
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe that is Sauron, but again, wouldn't that be a little on the nose? It's like, I'm now here. I'm Sauron. Ooh, and why is he going after this dude? If it is Sauron, like, I don't know.
Maybe because the Stranger threatens him.
Maybe. Actually,
if
that's not
they
good.
are a wizard.
If they're a wizard, which the girl could be.
And also when he was looking that way before he had the rings forged, he said he was like an elf.
Yeah, he was a fairy elf. But again, his ears did not look elvish to me.
Mm-hmm.
So but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out different. Maybe we'll find it differently. All right, what's next?
From Stubble McShave, this episode was better. These 5 episodes could have been edited down to 3.
I agree.
I wish we got more story from each storyline per episode. We just touch on each storyline.
Like, I will say, if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say this, that some of the great payoff in this episode was made possible by some of the groundwork laid in some of the previous episodes. I think that's fair to say, but I also agree that a lot of that groundwork could have been made and done much more efficiently. And I agree, this could have been episode 3. I completely agree. This could have been episode 3. I think that's a result of the bad pacing that the show has had up until this point. So, but let's hope they've got that behind them and they're ready to go. Fingers crossed. All right, what's next?
From Alex Von Gollum, I liked that we had some character development from Galadriel when Halbrand questioned her revenge spree. Hope we see her character evolve more.
Again, to me, this is the moment I've been waiting for Galadriel, because the show's done, in my opinion, the show's done a pretty good job of showing that this is a flawed character. Like, she's brave, she's noble, she's an elite warrior, she's all this kind of stuff, but she's also obsessed. She's also not giving a lot of mind to what her own personal quest is costing the people around her. Her own people have turned on her, and that's what I love about this. A lot of other shows or movies would have their hero character, who perceive that they've been kind of let down by their friends and people around them, just come to peace with that. But instead, they have her face the real truth, which is they all turned on me and they were right to do so, because I've been acting as bad as the evil that I claim I'm fighting. And that moment, that come to Jesus moment, if you will, for Galadriel, to me was an incredibly powerful moment. And I think her coming to that realization with Halbrand created a bond as well. Because that scene when they finally have the John and what was Carl Weathers' name in Predator again? Wasn't because Dutch, but they had their handshake there.
Yeah.
Handshake, right? When that moment happened, I think that moment happened because of the fact that she was finally able to have that revelation for herself and share it with him as well. And I thought that was great. This was the most movement we've seen on character development, I think, in the entire series so far.
It was Dylan.
Dylan.
Dutch.
Yeah, Dylan and Dutch. You son of a bitch. Pushing your pencils. That's a terrible Arnold. That was a bad Arnold. That was a bad Arnold. Awful. All right, what's next?
From Official Friend Zone, it took me 2 hours to finish this episode because I kept watching the scene with the song in the beginning over and over. It makes me now think the stranger is Gandalf. Yes.
Well, you were pointing out a little bit earlier some of the connections with that song.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because it's the riddle that the phrase "all who wander are not lost" is what so many Tolkien fans tattoo upon themselves, and is what's shown everywhere. It's from Strider's Riddle, which was a poem that was used to just kind of suss out that, yes, this is in the fact the Strider you are meant to meet when Frodo is sent to go to the Prancing Pony. And it's something that Bilbo actually reads too at the council.
Yes.
When Boromir doubts his role as
Frodo
king?
reads it. It counts. Oh no,
No, I think it's
Bilbo. Yes, you're right. It's Bilbo. Yes.
When they doubt, like why Aragorn should be there, and it's because he's the Isildur's heir. So shut your whore mouth.
And then there's an earlier iteration of that Gandalf of this lament from earlier on in the saga.
Yeah, and so it just makes sense that while he is in this kind of pupa stage, we're hearing this song on their journey, and hearing that phrase over and over again would become something that would be intrinsically tied to him and his love of the little people.
Help me out, Rob, because I keep forgetting if there was a difference between the extended scene and the regular edition in Fellowship of the Ring. At the Council of Elrond, it's Legolas who stands up and basically just puts it out there. This is Isildur's heir.
Yep.
Did that happen in the regular theatrical version, or was that a part of the extended edition? I can't remember now. I get the two blur for
I
me.
think
In the regular, he
yeah.
does
Was
it.
it in the regular as well?
Because
Okay.
Aragorn still does in Elvish, sit down, my friend.
Yeah. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. It wasn't the regular. Okay. What's next?
From Sam Fisher, did you notice that one of the items the priests were holding had the rune the stranger was drawing in episode 2?
I had just said the same thing. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's true, but I looked at it, is that what he was drawing? Like, guys in the live chat, let me know if you think that is accurate, or if anybody's got an image comparing the two. Email that to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. I'd love to see it. But I had that exact same thought, man. Had the exact same thought, but we might both be wrong. All right, what's next?
From Sam Fisher again. Do we still think the stranger is a wizard? I feel like those priests of Morgoth shouldn't be looking for him if that is what those priests are.
See, here's the thing, Sam. There are so many ifs.
Yes.
If those are priests of Morgoth, and if that is a wizard, and why would this if equate with that if the two ifs are indeed an if? It's still a very, very complicated puzzle. And there's a lot. I mean, once the pieces start falling in place, like I feel like once we know who the stranger is, right? I think, or once we know who these Slim Shady,
real Slim Shady?
groupies are,
Won't they stand up?
won't they stand up? Once
Please.
once one of those dominoes falls, I think it'll give context to everything else. Like I think once we know who the stranger is, we'll know who those three are, or vice versa. But right now, everything is still a speculation, and we just don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out soon. All right, only 3 episodes left. What's next?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in the show so far, have they created any original characters just for the show, or all the characters so far from the books? Just because I'm wondering for the wizard, the stranger, these three bald
I
eagles.
believe Adar
Adar's completely
is
new.
completely new.
I don't think we had. I mean,
I think
Rowan,
I don't recall
remember.
Hellbrand. Hellbrand could be completely new, but he could end up being like one of the Nazgul, or he could be.
Arendir, I don't think we had mention of before, but I could be wrong because elves are mentioned ad nauseum.
Right.
Everybody's favorite Isildur's sister.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that because there are a couple original characters in this show so far, maybe the stranger and these bald people could be original characters for the show, or do you think they're going to be someone that we should know?
Well,
I feel like they'll be tied to lore personally.
yeah, I mean, they could be tied to lore. They don't necessarily will be characters whose names were mentioned in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah.
Like one of the popular initial theories about the stranger was the blue wizards, which of course we never met in the Lord of the Rings films, but they're part of lore. He could be one of the Valar. I mean, he could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot of possibilities.
The blue wizards, I don't believe, are ever named either. They're
No,
just
and I don't think so either. And I think also they need to start the look. I think the audience is like, they want Gandalf to be there. They need when they were making the show, somebody probably said, we need a star marquee character that we can rally around.
we talked about this a little bit on the main show. Is that hey, yeah, if you're a true fan, you love a deep cut, you love a B-side. But when you see somebody in a stadium, you want some of the hits.
yeah.
So,
And especially
play
when
Stairway to
But
Heaven,
I mean,
give us
we got
Gandalf.
Galadriel and Elrond and Sauron and Like it's not like there's no recognizable
No,
names in
but
there,
I think
right?
when it comes to wizards, we're like, we know which one we like.
And Elrond and Galadriel were tertiary characters. They weren't star characters, whereas Gandalf's a star.
All right. What's next?
From Alex Von Gollum again. I had a yes moment when Arondir gave Theo some encouragement words
Yeah.
and Theo started to trust and bond with him. Moments like this bring me back to Lord of the Rings. Loved the episode.
There were so many. Listen, I think one of the things that really tugged at my heartstrings was it got into some of the heart of what the Lord of the Rings films are. And it's not Battle of Helm's Deep, and it's not, the Riders of Rohan like showing up to save the day. A lot of the big themes and most special themes in the Lord of the Rings films and in the books and in this particular episode are moments of contemplation of honor, moments in contemplation of your place in the world, moments in contemplation of your own worth, of love and bonds, and the overused word in Lord of the Rings, fellowship. And you see each of the characters confronting different moments of character. And like the example of Elrond himself, just Elrond contemplating about, my people's thing is a risk, but I gave an oath. That's supposed to be unbreakable. Or as Poppy is singing the song about not all who wander are lost, and the perils and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff to me that made it really special. And that, and then again, of course, that scene between Halbrand and Galadriel to me was very, very, very key. And I hope we get to see more of that. But we are ready for a battle, right? We are ready for a battle. And that's what I hope we're going to get in the next episode. All right, what's next?
From Marie Seafring, sending in an almost $20 super chat.
Thank you, Marie.
I'm really... we timed it. I'm really enjoying the care the writers are putting into character relationships. Durin lies to get a new table for his wife, Disa. The two Harfoot girls are great. Isildur and his friends, it feels more grounded.
But by the way, none of us have mentioned this scene. When they take Isildur into the back and he gets 2 free shots and they beat the crap out of him, I love that the big guy grabs him and says, look, you're my friend. You're my oldest friend. And as much as it pains me to say, you're probably still my best friend. Because they've been so angry at each other. But he says, you're my oldest friend and you're still my best friend. But, the reality is you ditch. You're not reliable. And I love you. And and there's moments like that where friends who've been angry at each other and still say, you know what, we can be mad at each other, but make no mistake, I still have love for you. I don't know, that kind of shit to me is great. It's why one of the only scenes in movie history that literally made me weep and cry was the end of My Best Friend's Wedding. When Julia Roberts gets a call from her best friend and the dude's on the phone, and then she realizes he's there. He flew across the country just because he knew his friend was going to need him there. And I bawled like a baby. And so that scene between the new lieutenant and and Isildur, when he said, you're still my best friend, that broke me. I loved that. I love that kind of stuff.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
You brought up something with that there was one thing about this episode I really didn't like, and that was the explosion, the destruction of one of their 4 boats that they had packed up. You have Isildur's sleeping on the boat, and he's discovered there, and it seems like, they had to do something. They wanted to create some kind of thing, and they blew up this boat. And I felt like these guys are idiots to allow this to have happened. Just the way that I'm like. Even I was saying before this is happening, I'm like looking at this flame, he's carrying the torch, and I'm like, man, I hope they don't. And they did exactly what I was thinking they were going to do. And I get it, because then they can bond. The 2 of them now have a secret that can later be revealed. You blew up the boat.
And also, I kind of want to have sex with your sister.
Yeah, that's always an awkward starter.
Yeah. Because that guy, too, I was like, okay, so, you're Farazan's lackey, and that's enough for me. But then also you're romantically interested in Isildur's sister.
Yeah.
who's
But
pushing you to
Isildur
do
doesn't know
something.
that yet.
But yeah.
No, it just seemed like that to me was, I get why they did it. And it was certainly was spectacular watching that ship blow up. And everybody got all, there's brigands. We're searching for the brigands that are responsible. I'm like, to me, everything was great. It was all, but that seemed to be a turn, and it happened so quickly. The fire goes down and boom, what, wine explodes? Like, do you have armaments and munitions in the bottom of that boat? That was the only thing that struck me.
That's how I organize my wine cellar.
See, that never bothered me because, first of all, the dude being who he is and being the administrator's son, he would know exactly who to talk to, how to get on board that ship, love it.
Sure.
Isildur, being who he is, would have all the ways to do that. But I think there's even more important stuff. I think the consequences of the fact that they are now down 2 ships, which means hundreds of fewer soldiers that they could bring with them. I think that's going to come into play later as well.
I agree. I think absolutely right. I just think that they could have done it in a more elegant. It was almost like an afterthought. Oh, we got to get rid of this boat, so let's have this scene.
And there's two boats.
Well, yes, 2 boats down, and what's his face was basically responsible for both. And I get that. It just seemed like that was okay. It was cool to look at. I liked the scene.
I worked for me, but all right. Okay, what's next?
From Sam Fisher, I'm sorry, but no one should be promoted just because they put a tiny hole in a dress.
Listen, it's not like they promoted him to Grand Admiral.
Yeah.
Right? It was, and you gave them something to fight for. You gave them something. Anybody who does this, I'll promote. It was one level up. It was whatever.
And it was a way to bond with Galadriel,
yes,
too.
right.
It was
And bond with each
respect her.
other.
Exactly.
And I think Galadriel knew she was going to get tagged. She's fighting like 4 dudes.
Yeah.
And she knew somebody was there. The whole point was like, one of these guys is going to tag me. And I agree with you. She was doing that so she could have that moment where,
Exactly.
all right, you got me.
Because no blood was drawn, and that was what the actual deal was. But it was a,
Yep, you cut a
hey,
thread.
good job.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
You could have got me.
Cut a thread.
I
liked it.
liked that. I liked that whole idea of finally it was Galadriel softening and giving up
Exactly.
something.
Yes, because I think of the scene that happened earlier when she's realizing, just stepping in and being like, do what I want you to do, everybody, and realizing this is not how you get things done.
No.
And I love the one line when she says, you fight with your feet. And like, all I could think about was Muhammad Ali. It's like, you fight the orcs. Don't try to overpower them. Don't try to outstrength them. You fight them with your feet. And I love that. And then she did that. So all of her fighting with them was all about her movement and everything like that.
And I
So
love you
dug that.
thrust and then twist.
Yes. And then what'd you say after? You thrust, twist, and there was a third
And then
step.
gut.
And
or
gut
whatever. Yeah,
or
gut.
disembowel or whatever it was. Yeah. Oh, it was so good. All right, what's next?
From Tim Platt, I'm with Ray. The orc chant at the end was a bop.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
You don't remember it? They
No.
were saying,
Speak into your microphone.
Oh, sorry. The text was saying, I guess they were screaming Napat, Napaat,
Okay.
but that's what they were saying.
Sounds
but
like a
I was
Filipino
like,
dish.
the bass behind it, I was like ready for war.
All right, I got to go back and watch the scene
That
again.
was my favorite part when they were all starting to get ready, and you see the trail of the torches, so you could tell there's a big amount of them, and they're all funneling into this one big line. And I was like, this, whatever they're going to, there's going to be not a lot of nice things afterwards, around them. There's going to be a battle that's
See, if there's only one path to get to that tower, the humans have been smart. The day before, they would have lined that whole thing with fire oil.
Yeah.
And then as they're all walking up that one path, just drop one big torch.
They would have called Tyrion. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Remember what we did in Blackwater?
What was that called? Dragon breath or what was
Dragon fire?
dragon fire, whatever? Just light it up. Well, there's only one way to get up there.
or just dig a big hole.
In StarCraft, we call that a choke point. Okay,
Yeah.
we call that a choke
In
point.
Looney Tunes, we call that Coyote's worst enemy is a hole. And they're walking in the dark. They would all fallen in. Where'd they go?
Perfect choke point, I'm telling you. All right, what's next?
Wildfire.
Wildfire is what it was called. That's right.
Wildfire.
That's right. Eric Thorpe and Bames in the live chat remind us it's Wildfire. Wildfire. Yes.
I
All
can't
right.
believe you guys didn't remember that part.
Dude,
It's
there's
like the
so
best
many.
part.
Well, I just didn't remember what they were saying. I remember they did it. I just wasn't like, yeah, I got all that locked in this movie theater. From Sam Fisher, I honestly thought Isildur was going to rat that guy out for burning the ship.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I am still not sure why he didn't. And I hope,
Because he was complicit. He was there too.
well, that's true.
I
He didn't want to come out and say, I was stowing away on the boat. Yeah, you know what? Okay. Yep. All right. You convinced me. That's a logical explanation. You got me on that. All right. What's next?
From James L.H. Also, I admit I have a laugh and cheer at all those insecure online voices crying out in terror, seeing Galadriel wield a sword or two or wear armor.
Yeah, we don't need to go into those.
Yeah.
I mean, knuckle draggers are knuckle draggers. No point in talking about them.
Speaking of armor, the Galadriel armor when she gets up on
Galadriel?
Galadriel, that armor that when she walks up into that boat, wasn't that fire right there? She was like, psh, and all the guys just looking like.
Galadriel sounds like a 1980s wrestler or
No,
a nighttime
Galadriel.
medication.
Yeah, I was
you
going to
take.
say, I feel like it's
Galadriel.
something that you take
What's her
for
name?
butterfly
Galadriel?
syndrome.
It's a super
Galadriel.
pop I use at Hanukkah.
Is your crotch a little itchy? Need some Galadriel.
Well, I love Galadrin, so I love her armor.
I
Galadrin
made
may
it out
cause a
of clay.
fever, night sweats.
What is with you and elf name? Say Legolas again.
Legolas.
Lego.
I always call it
Legolas.
Legolas.
Legolas. All right, what's
Whatever,
next?
man. You just make fun of my accent.
No.
Accent.
Sam
Yeah, that's
Fisher.
the problem. It's that accent.
Sam Fisher loved the look of the white and gold Numenorian armor, and it looks so much like the armor of Rohan.
Didn't I just say that?
Yeah.
Numenorian.
Yeah, and
so-
like the thing, the tuft of the
yeah,
the
it was
like
very
horse that
Riders
comes-
of Rohan.
Yeah, it was very Rohanish. Very much.
And what was the last little bit here?
The last little bit.
Did Numenor settle the Mark II?
That's a good question. Like, I wonder if like a lot of these soldiers who go over from Numenor eventually just like the elves who come over to Middle Earth just eventually stayed. I wonder if a lot of these Numenorians who come over just kind of stay and we get the establishment of Gondor, like after the fall of the Southlands and it turns into Mordor, if we get the establishment of Gondor and Rohan and stuff like that. I mean, obviously there's got to be some influence there, some cultural influence.
Well, the White City,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? We're going to rebuild Numenor here.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because remember,
Galadriel,
in Gondor, when we see that wide shot of Numenor and we see their palace, it's got that long, almost like King's Rock
Yeah.
thing that
Yes.
comes out with the white tree, and they reestablish all that in Gondor. So, yeah, maybe. All right, what's next?
Ray, I found your character that you were talking about right here. Lego ass.
Lego ass. Well, this is Taylor's last day on the job.
I loved Lego ass. That
Lego
was
ass.
great.
What's next?
James L.H. Hi, crew. I personally have enjoyed every episode, but this was the best for me so far. Really like whenever Elrond and Durin shared the same screen.
They can literally be talking about lunch, and I'll watch it. There's something so great about not just the individual characters, but the dynamic that they have. And just again, it's something where I think if you just read the script in a lot of other contexts, him saying, just tell Disa the table's from me. It's like, that's a lame line. But between the two of them,
It's great.
it's special,
Yes.
right?
I want a buddy cop movie of them. I want
I want them solving murders every week.
yes.
And it's almost like they're upping the debt that each one has to one another.
Yes.
You know, that's what they're it's a friendship thing, but it's also like, I'm banking a favor here.
Yeah.
This is their version of counting kills.
That's
Yes, it is.
So cute.
Just a little bullet train
Are
reference.
you
there.
guys okay today?
Yeah, no, I just drank
Yeah.
it's
the wrong.
Okay. I was worried.
All right.
Fine.
What's next?
Fine.
Don't die on me, babe.
At
All
least
right.
make it to the end of Rings of Power.
Double McShave. Although I liked the episode, I didn't get why some people didn't leave the fortress with the sword hilt when they had days until the orcs arrived.
Oh, and why they didn't leave the tower? I think they know, like, where are they going to go? I mean, this is their land. This is their, and do you think you're going to be able to outpace what's to come? I mean, don't lie. I'm not going to lie. The same thought crossed my head. It's like, why not just sprint? If they're over there, let's sprint that way and just go, but go where?
Right.
And that's kind of the,
They're
I
gonna
think
fi-
the
they're gonna be
conundrum
found
they're in.
anyway.
Yeah. That's kind of the conundrum that they're in. So it's, and I think we'll probably get more illumination on that as we go forward. All right. What's next?
From Alex Mongolam, Adar is shaping out to be a great sinister villain.
He is, but listen, I am very, very fascinated by what is the dynamic between him and Sauron. Because he wasn't happy hearing the name Sauron's name. He wasn't happy hearing Sauron's name brought up. And I saw one theory online where it's like he may have been captured by Sauron at one point and tortured. He may hate Sauron. Maybe he thinks, I just want to give the orcs a home. I mean, I don't know what's going on. Or he's completely connected to Sauron.
I think they were trying to turn him into an elf. I mean, turn him into
Well, that's where
an
the
orc.
orcs
An
came
orc,
from.
yeah.
Orcs
Yeah,
were.
and he, for
elves.
whatever reason, it didn't take, or it was through because he's deformed. I mean,
Yeah.
he's scarred
Yes.
up, so it didn't quite work out. And so he's like, I'm going to do my own thing, man. I am who I am. I've inherited this mantle. Because he's talking about, well, did you live here? I remember I walked that place before.
Right.
So he's kind of a man of two worlds, but he's accepted his fate. And he's like, screw it, man. I'm going to build my own army of orcs and I'm going to wreck shop.
Yeah, so is he with Sauron or not?
It's hard to tell, but I did love that once it was, well, he's not Sauron. Okay, well, I'll pledge my loyalty to you. I don't give a shit. Like, what?
Well, are you not Sauron? All right, whoever
That's
you
fine.
are, I
Right, yeah,
pledge my fealty
And then
to
it's
you.
a blood in, blood out situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang.
I think he thinks he's going to be the force to be reckoned with. That he's going to show some fools what's up.
All right, what's next?
From Casinema Reviews, I like this Isildur guy. I think things will turn out very well for him. Certainly no arrows in his back, that's for sure.
Yeah, everything's. I mean, really, depending on how you look at it, things do work out really well for him. He becomes kind of the hero of Middle Earth. He cuts the ring from Sauron's finger. He ultimately is the big hero in that story. He picks up his father's sword and cuts the thing. Now, he doesn't destroy the ring, and a bad ending for him and all, but ultimately he does become the hero of the story, which is kind of weird when you think about it that way.
For a while.
For a while, at any rate. All right, what's next?
From Tim Platt, moral of the story, you can't keep flaking out on people and expect them to keep helping you. I wanted to feel bad for that dude, but he had it coming.
Who are we talking about?
Which guy?
Are we talking about the dude that gets sacrificed? The kid?
Maybe we're talking about Lego ass.
Because remember the kid, like when he goes into town with Theo, he splits.
Right.
I have to maybe he's talking about him. That was horrifying. And when they cut away, I thought that was a cop-out, but I think there might be a reason. I wonder if he stops. I wonder if it's an Abraham situation where he stops him before he kills him, or maybe he has him kill all the other people. Because remember, when we saw the orcs marching on the tower, I didn't see any of the humans.
No.
Right.
I wonder if they're all dead. I mean, I don't know. So I think there's a reason they didn't show us that. We'll find out. All right, what's next?
From John Wheelbacher. Favorite episode yet? It's giving me what I want from a Lord of the Rings show. The music is particular this week. The music in particular this week was amazing. I don't mind it taking to episode 5 to get to where we are. It's episode 5 of a stated 50.
Yeah. Okay, that's all great. That's all well and good that you can plan that we're going to do 5 seasons. But as Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And that's great. Listen, the reality is this. If this were a show called anything other than Lord of the Rings, I would have tapped out of the show by now. It is not acceptable that, you really got to invest, give it 4 hours.
Right.
We would never do that for a movie.
That's a fellowship and part of Two Towers.
Yeah. I mean, that's not acceptable. But because it is a Lord of the Rings show and it's been my most anticipated thing, I've hung in there and we're finally getting that payoff. But even if this show is as good as House of the Dragon for the rest of the season, I will still say there was no reason why it had to be so slow for the first 3 episodes. But that's just me. All right. What's
Agreed.
next?
From John Wilbacher, Elrond and Durin have been the best part of the show since episode 1, but Elendil is fast becoming my favorite character in the show.
I can definitely see that. I mean, he's a badass.
Who's
He's a daddy.
He's
The
Isildur's dad.
the elf.
no, is it?
No.
Oh, is it?
This is Isildur's dad.
Yeah, Isildur's dad.
Oh, Isildur's
Yeah,
dad.
the
I'm
guy who
sorry.
has the very great
Sorry,
deep voice.
who's the elf again?
Arondir.
Aaron. See,
Yeah, that's
I
the
told
guy-
you.
Yeah. Elendil, Arondir, I understand.
That-
I
the guy
thought
who's-
Arondir was pretty good this episode, though, too.
yeah.
I like what he had to say. I thought
He's a good mentor.
Good mentor.
How good was that line where he said, "It took me 200 years to build the courage to fight this thing. You've done it in 14."
Yeah.
I loved that.
That was
line.
wonderful.
That was great, and I like that he's coming into his own. I mean, they're giving again. There was more character development in this episode than in the last previous 4.
I agree. Ray, what were you going to
Oh
say?
no! I was gonna just go on.
If it
I'll
helps,
look it up myself on IMDb.
we can call him Elendilf if that helps with the names.
Dill.
Elendil.
That's a man's man, by the way.
He's got
And that you
it's
wanna-
his booming voice where it's just,
Yeah.
well, make sure you're using your sword this way. And you're like, okay, thank
And
you.
he sounds good when he speaks Elvish, too. All right, what's next?
From the Sky Ablaze, I really noticed how good the score was this episode.
This is the first time I really noticed how good the score was.
Bear McCreary, man.
Because I'm not a big fan of the opening theme.
Oh, really?
I don't like the opening credits. I'm not a big fan of the opening theme. Nothing epic or memorable about it, but throughout the show, it seems to be fitting in really well.
It's Howard Shore, though.
Yep, I know. All right, what's next? Yeah.
From
There we go.
Tanzir13, I believe Hallbrand is a tragic hero, reluctant to fight because he's worried he'll be like his ancestors. He redeems his line by uniting the Southlands, and tragically is rewarded by Anatar's gift, becoming the Witch King, thus making his fears true, becoming that he feared, servant to evil. That's what I think too, Tanzir.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier today. I think you could be right about that.
Well, I mean, we said before that it could be a possibility. He could be the Witch King of Agnon, right?
Yeah,
Like he could
that's the
be
whole
that
thing.
dude.
But in which case, he will be wielding a ring. But
Yeah.
he won't be that yet, right? When
Yeah.
you get a ring and then become
And then he would become.
later.
Well, the ring's got to get forged first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we got a long way to go. By the way, are they foreshadowing that the rings themselves are made out of mithril?
That's what it feels
Some are.
like. Yeah.
There,
Yep.
not all of them are, but some are.
See, I didn't know that. So that makes sense now. All right, what's next?
From Flover99. Hi, John. Is this show divisive?
I don't know. I don't. There are far more. So there's a lot of vocal people about it, but nowhere near as divisive as say Star Wars had been or anything like that. I think generally speaking, the general audience has been quite enjoying it. So no, I wouldn't say the show's. I mean, there's a loud minority that are really negative on it. And listen, the reality is too is I don't think this show's been great. I think this episode was great, but I don't think the show's been great. So, but no, I don't think it's been divisive. That's just me at any rate. Not like the way Star Wars has been. All right, what's next?
From John Wilmbucker. I'm a little perplexed by the standard that a show should be perfect and firing on all cylinders out of the gate. Early seasons of most classic shows were lesser. Do we have less patience these days?
Listen, nobody's saying you have to come out of the gate with 5 big action sequences and blah, blah, blah. Again, I point us back to a great example. Episode 1, House of the Dragon. There is a difference. Rob, you and I were talking about this the other day. There's a difference between slow burn and slow. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
A slow burn means you have a cadence. There are things, there's a pace and a cadence to a story being told and certain story beats being revealed and moving from one thing to the next. And you can have a slow burn and be very, very effective in that way. The first episode, House of the Dragon, is a great slow burn. Like we're meeting characters, we're understanding their motivations. They're accomplishing things in one episode that was taking Rings of Power 2.5 episodes to do. And then there's just slow, where there are entire scenes that were unnecessary, or scenes where a certain point narratively needed to be made, and then that narrative point gets made, and then they just linger in the scene for another long while. Again, I would say go back and look at the first episode, House of the Dragon.
But what if those instances come back in the end and it comes full circle?
They don't, though. That's the thing. Like something happens in a scene where it's like, okay, we needed to see that and know that. Great. Now, in House of the Dragon, when that happens in a scene, they then move on to the next scene. Whereas in what they've done in Rings of Power so far is something like that happens in a scene, and then it's just a bunch of, what is that Legolas says? Linger. We should not linger. They just linger in the scene, revisiting points they've already made, saying things that have already been said, blah, blah. And it's become useless dead time. And so instead of becoming a slow burn, it just becomes slow. Whereas in House of the Dragon, the point they're trying to make gets made, they move on to the next scene.
Well, especially in serialized storytelling. You know, when you watch like the first episode of Breaking Bad, that first episode, you're in.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're watching that going, okay, by the end of that episode, you're like, wow, I totally get it. And with this show, we already have seen 6 Lord of the Rings movies set in Middle Earth. You know, the Hobbit trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So there's an expectation that we have a shorthand already that you can rely on as a showrunner and as a storyteller in order to get people to come in. And it seemed like they weren't availing themselves of this. And you got we did get kind of this long Galadriel narrated opening in the beginning, but then you go meet Galadriel as a little girl. Well, I guess you see her as a little girl first, and then you get the narration. And it was all sort of, why are you watching her older brother saying, you know, the difference between a rock and a ship? And that scene was like, why are we seeing this? Like,
I loved it because I want to know why she loves her brother so
Yeah.
much.
well, okay,
Galadriel.
I would say yes, that's important.
Well, then it comes to play in this episode where she says to him, sometimes to recognize the light, you have to touch the darkness, which came from that original speech
Yes,
in episode
but
1.
you could have done that scene differently.
Yeah, they could
You
have.
know, and because I think have a scene with her brother and her, and then she goes off to battle, you know, but that it was such an odd metaphor to make. I just thought it could be done better.
All right, what's next?
From Stubble McShave, Nori and Poppy is basically Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't think that's. But listen, all of narratives are often filled with two people.
Look at those
with
babies.
Two friends, two brothers, two sisters, two lovers, two whatever. But yeah, absolutely, that's this show's version.
They're
of it.
actually going to be at the Comic Con, LA Comic Con coming up. This will be the first time they've been on stage together in many, many years.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's gonna be so cute.
Yeah,
Them
All right.
too? Both of them?
all four of them. All four of them, I think, are going to be there.
When is LA Comic?
I know. Is it sold out?
I think
it's
I
November
just got
to
an email, so I think pre-sale tickets are going on sale.
All right, what's
Early
next?
bird, yeah.
From John Willenbacher, I'm impressed that this show has given me like 4 characters. I could see them turning into Sauron. And we might not even have met him yet. They're not telegraphing on any one person.
I have a feeling at the end of the day, Sauron's going to be Sauron. I have a feeling at the end of the day, they're going to come across a fortress keep somewhere, and Sauron is just there. Like, he's not any of the, but you're right. They're kind of leading us to believe that, okay, is it the Stranger? Is it Slim Shady? Is it Halbrand? There's still people out there who think Halbrand is Sauron, which I don't see that, especially after this episode, but you're right. They're dangling several possibilities out there for people. All right,
LA
what's next?
Comic Con is in December,
Okay.
just so everyone knows.
Wow, that's far.
Jack Reams sending in a $20 super check just for support.
Thank you, Jack.
Jack.
Appreciate that, man.
Stubble McShave, time jump with new actor for Isildur in season 2.
I don't think they need to. He's already old enough that you could, yeah,
Grow a beard.
just put a beard on him
Put
and
his
everything.
old ass back.
Put a little bit of gray in his hair if they
Yeah.
need to. Yeah. And by the way, when Isildur's father dies in the first Lord of the Rings, he's no more than 15 or 20 years older than he looks in the show now. So
And the Numenorians age slower,
Slower.
too.
That's true.
So
Yeah, I forgot
you don't
about
need
that.
to do that too much with them.
all right, what's next?
From Tanzir13, I think Sauron is in Linden, killing the tree, sowing fear. He's the one behind the forge. He wants the Mithril to make his rings, lying to the others. I say in the finale, they introduce Anatar.
I mean, look, of course, when you have, what's the name of the guy that Elrond is working with again?
Gilgalad?
Good. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no,
No.
the actual forger?
The forge guy,
Oh,
the
golly.
Lord
Oh.
Celebrimbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor.
Lord
Ray teach you that
Cinnabon.
one?
Lord Cinnabon.
Lord Cinnabon. Yeah,
Who
so
works closely with Wetzel.
yeah, Lord Cinnabon is going to be manipulated by Sauron in the form of an elf to form. Now, of course, he forges the elven rings without Sauron, and that's why the elves don't fall into the under the control of it. But so he's got to be in play there somewhere. He's got to be in play somewhere.
What if Sauron is the tree?
Like
Why
how
does-
they kept Hexus in a tree in Fern Gully?
Well, why does he have to be a person?
Because he is.
But
We've already seen him.
But he's a deceiver.
Isn't there a height requirement for Sauron too? A lot of these people you guys are guessing are
I mean,
really
Gilgalad's
short.
like, I don't even know what's happening with this tree. I don't know what's going on here.
Well, it's dying. Well, ever since the comet showed up, it's been dying. The lands are dying. So, I mean, I don't think Sauron is a tree. That's the one thing I feel pretty certain about. Not a lot else I feel certain about, but that.
What about the soil?
For anyone too who is a casual Lord of the Rings fan, Anatar is Sauron. So everyone knows how that
Yeah.
happened.
Servant of Morgoth.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Used to
What's
be
next?
Melkor.
It
Yes.
gets confusing.
You-
Yeah,
whose name used
there's
to be
a whole bunch of
Melkor.
names. Miguel Seja, I'm not sure Amazon can deliver, no pun intended. They've already ruined one of my favorite book series, Wheel of Time. I'm still crossing my fingers.
I wasn't big on Wheel of Time. I mean,
I haven't watched it.
Let's put it this way. It's all right enough that I will check out season 2. It's all right enough that I'll check out season 2. But here's the thing you always got to remember. This is totally different writers, totally different directors, totally different, like, everything. So, I mean, and I'm not even sure Amazon is the studio behind the Wheel of Time. And was it Warner Brothers Television that was behind that? Actually, I might be wrong about that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so far, like right now, if this is the level the show stays at, I'm going to be very happy. But that's a big if. So we'll see. All right, what's next?
From Daniel Vaccara, my favorite moment was when the girl gave the friend who became the lieutenant the money and said he wouldn't have accepted the apology right away. Great episode, finally.
What are we talking about?
The moment when Isildur comes and they're like, "You're here to apologize," and I don't accept, and all of that. And
All
then
right,
one
then the other friend
girlfriend-
said,
yeah.
I wouldn't have accepted
I would have
that."
accepted.
I
that.
love that whole exchange. That
Yeah.
whole exchange was really
It
special.
was delightful.
And I got to say, I've never been in a situation where a friend of mine said, "Fine, you get one free shot," where I actually took it. So it was kind of funny to see it happen when he says, okay, you get 2 free shots. And then,
Oh, man.
Give him 3.
You jump at the chance when a friend's like, you can punch me.
yeah,
Oh no, maybe my friends are messed up.
I could do it. You have weird relationships.
That's fair.
All right. What's
fair.
next?
Jonathan Hale. Is Isildur's sister there to eventually explain how the line of succession is fixed? That's my guess.
What are we talking about?
Well,
What is this, Chris?
I mean, because is she gonna have a kid? She gonna get married
But
to somebody else?
what is broken about the line of succession? Like I think Gondor is going to be a newly established kingdom. It's not the Southlands. I think it's
Right.
going to be a newly established kingdom. So like if you're talking about, wait a minute, if Halbrand is supposed to be king, well, Halbrand is supposed to be king over here, kind of like how Theoden was king of Rohan and so-and-so was king in so I don't think there is a succession problem. Although, I don't know, maybe there is. We'll have to find out. All right, what's next?
From Jonathan. Oh, from Sam Fisher. I really like Farazan's plan because he is absolutely right.
So who's playing?
Farazan, the Queen Regent's cousin.
Oh,
who's just like, they can go do this.
By the way, that is the slickest looking dude. That
Farazan?
yeah.
Amy calls him Beardy Moynihan, and I think it's so perfect.
Beardy Moynihan.
Yeah, because he's a Bobby Moynihan looking character.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like this character a lot. Like
do
he's
too.
he's a little conniving or whatever, but I mean he's also like I'm all about doing what's right for Numenor and all that kind of stuff. So I like
Yeah, he's not like
complicated
a
characters
worm
like that.
tongue,
No,
but he
no,
actually
absolutely
does
not,
have
yeah.
good interest for the kingdom.
yeah. All right. What's next?
That's it.
That's it.
Oh. All right, guys. And that'll do it for this installment of our Lord of the Rings Rings of Power after show. Again, for me, finally, an episode that I think I liked as much as any episode of House of the Dragon. It's only taken 5 freaking episodes to get there. Anyway, I'm really happy with it. I hope they continue on that path. How did you guys feel about the episode overall? Jump down into our comments below and leave your thoughts there. Don't forget, guys, to come on back and join us for the John Campea Show on Monday when we return. It's going to be good to see you guys back. We hope you have a fabulous weekend ahead of yourselves. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody in the room. We've got Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Of course, we have Chris Carr. Sitting back there, still looking up IMDb, is Ray Ora, Jonathan Boyko, and Taylor Gonzalez. Thank you guys for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.